the Amazon rainforest is an even bigger rainforest than this, and what's hiding in it
Right.
is a mystery that needs to be solved in the coming years.
Right.
If we're going to have any idea of our own past. I think the Amazon is incredibly important. It's why I chose to focus season 2 of Ancient Apocalypse on the Americas, because I think in terms of the quest for the origins of civilization, the Americas are the most neglected area. Archaeologists haven't looked there. They define themselves as being in favor of indigenous peoples and against any kind of supremacy, but by and large they look to Europe and to the Middle East as the origins of civilization and don't consider that it might have been in the Americas. And what we're trying to show is that the story in the Americas is much older than it's been, and that there are mysteries here that have never been explained by archaeology.
How much of the Amazon has been explored with LiDAR?
A very tiny proportion. I worked with the team who are doing this, and they're solely in the province of Acre, in the southwest of Brazil. They haven't worked in other areas. What would be needed, I'm hoping some amazing philanthropist will come forward, and if such a philanthropist will come forward, I can connect him with the people who are doing the work in Acre, that we have a LiDAR survey of the whole of the Amazon. That's what I'd like to see. And it wouldn't be $1 billion project because it can be done with drones now. It could be relatively cost efficient.
That would be incredible. Just imagine what's out there.
Yeah. And we have the tech. We can do that. We can do a LiDAR survey of the Amazon.
Where specifically did they think that lost city of Z was? And did they try to explore that yet?
I think it was in Ecuador or Colombia. I can't remember. That was Percy Fawcett, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of echo of that earlier discovery of lost cities in the Amazon. These stories won't go away because there is a hidden past in the Amazon.
Right.
And because there were cities in the Amazon, and God knows what was in them, before the Spanish came along and destroyed everything.
God, it seems like that has to be discovered. I mean, that has to be looked at. Just specifically, if we could just find that the lost city of Z was a real place.
If we could find it was a real place?
Yeah.
I wish we could.
I mean, just finding lost city of Z is a legendary city in the Amazon rainforest, and British explorer Percy Harrison Fawcett believed was Mato Grosso
in Brazil,
theorized that the city was a refuge for people fleeing the destruction of Atlantis. Whoa. And its wisdom could still be found there. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think we're going to find the lost city of X and Y as well.
I bet.
And W.
Maybe A, B, C, D.
And possibly A, B, C, and D too. Yeah.
Maybe a bunch, yeah. It's, at the very least, it's clear that not enough is known.
Yeah. Not enough is known. And I think it's right and proper that we have curiosity about our past. And I think it's unfortunate that people, including myself, who express that curiosity without any dogma, but simply are mystified by problems from the past, are so likely to get slapped down and face this abusive power grab by archaeology, who are saying the past is ours, you may not intrude here, we will define you as a pseudoscientist, we will call you a hoaxer and a liar. I defy anyone out there to find a single statement I've made that is a lie. And a lie is a knowing untruth.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I have never, ever told knowingly an untruth. What a stupid thing to do that would be. That would scupper my whole work.
Yeah, exactly.
I may have made some honest mistakes. Everybody does, including the most godlike archaeologist. But I have never knowingly told an untruth, and I never would.
Of course not. The interesting thing, though, is...
But seriously, I'd like an example, because this is thrown at me so many times.
You can't be responding to the haters all the time. It's bad.
But they include archaeologists.
I know, but the reality is most people aren't listening anymore.
Define the untruth.
I don't think that's working anymore, because I think enough people have seen your work, and enough people have heard you talk, and they know that you're reasonable and intelligent, and that there's something there. Yeah. And the more people look at these images, and the more people hear people like Flint just out and out lie to try to dismiss these things.
It was most unfortunate. I think he let archaeology down very badly in the way that he manipulated that debate. And I'm sorry it's taken me so long to come back with the fact checking, but it was necessary to do. And I'm very grateful to a number of completely independent, separate individuals on the internet who have drawn attention to some of what Flint Flint did.
Yes.
One calls himself illegitimate scholar, and the other calls himself dedunking. And they got into this material very, very early and helped me to understand how I'd been duped by this material. Because I took it all at face value at the time.
That's the beautiful thing about the internet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that are very invested in these ideas and exploring them, and they also find it very uncomfortable that they're being confronted by these scholars, these people that are supposed to be the ones that are the experts in this area, that are dismissing things that shouldn't be dismissed, that are lying about statistics, just try to diffuse your argument.
Yeah. And there's also that feeling of being patronized by the so-called experts. Nobody wants to be patronized and feel that somebody else regards them as too stupid to make up their own mind on something.
Right. And they think that somehow or another that exploring these ideas dismisses the legitimate work that archaeologists have already done, which I don't think it does at all.
Not at all. Archaeologists have done some fantastic work, and it's really important work. What I've realized is that there's almost two different mindsets at work here in looking at the past. I think archaeology is very determined to demonstrate that it's a science, that it's a hard science, that it's completely rational, that it's all based on scientific method, and anything that sounds unscientific, which include myths, must be avoided. And also, I do find that archaeology, and it may be true in other sciences as well, are very reluctant to use the imagination. The imagination is seen as a deadly threat, whereas I think imagination is a really important thing in interpreting the past. We should be open to possibilities rather than coming into what we confront with a closed idea. We should consider how it might have been, what might have happened. Let's use our imagination and think about this, think what all this means, think what that common iconography all around the world means, rather than just saying, oh, it's a coincidence.
Well, in some places that's your only option, like the Olmec culture, where we don't know. Well, we have these faces that don't look like. Yeah, I mean, it's confusing. They look like maybe they're from Polynesia. Yeah, maybe they're from Africa.
Yeah, could be Polynesia. Could be Africa. And then there are these other faces, which in the video I've put out, I've shown some of these. It's not just myths of a bearded foreigner turning up in the Americas, which Flint Dibble and other archaeologists say were all concocted and invented by the Spaniards. We discussed that during the debate. I have a real problem with that, because that is patronizing to the indigenous people. I think the myths were there amongst the indigenous people, and I think the Spaniards saw how they could use them, how they could manipulate them, but I don't think they made up the myths and somehow imposed them upon the indigenous people, who then believed that they were their own myths. I don't think they were that stupid. They knew what their myths were.
Well, my concern with that line of thinking is that we've seen evidence of that sort of destruction of the real history of people in America, with how they forced Native Americans onto reservations and forced them into speaking English and forced them into learning Christianity. There was a concerted effort to erase their history and their culture, and that the conquerors imposed that on the people that were there.
But this is a kind of conspiracy theory that's being proposed, that the Spanish, Cortez and Pizarro and others who were involved in the conquest of the Americas, that they got together and they created a fiction, and then they made the indigenous people believe that fiction, while accepting everything else that the indigenous people believed. That was a fiction. There's no document which says that Spaniards conspired to create these stories. I believe that when we find them in Mexico, when we find them in Peru, when we find them in Colombia, when we find them in Bolivia, we are looking at indigenous traditions. And I have no doubt that the Spanish saw those traditions and said, we can use this, we can take advantage of this, we can exploit this, but I don't think they made up the traditions.
So it's possibly a myth of people that came over on ships that look different. Yeah.
It's about that. That's about what it comes to.
When you hear about things like the Lost City of Z, when you hear about all the different times where European explorers did make it to the Americas and spread their diseases, like, well, you're going to miss from those folks too. So who's to think that there wasn't multiple versions of that happened all throughout history?
Yeah, I suspect.
If it happened in the 1400s, it probably happened a long, long time ago as well.
Yeah.
The whole thing is so interesting, and it never ends. And every now and again, a new discovery comes along that pushes back the date of humans in specific areas. I mean, look at the Denisovans. They only found out about them in 2010 or something like that?
Very recently. I think Santha and I went to Denisova Cave in 2013.
Crazy.
Something like that.
So a whole new branch.
Yeah.
Of the
previously unknown.
Crazy.
And there's so much that's unknown about our past.
Oh, I know what I wanted to bring up to you today because I saw this online. Maybe you could find it before I can pull it up, Jamie, because you're that good. But there's a scientist that believes there's reason to believe that those hobbit people in the island of Flores, that they exist currently. So this was... the hobbit-like species of early humans may still be living in the jungles of Indonesia.
Interesting theory.
Yeah.
And
well, that's another branch of the human chain. That when did they find out about this? It wasn't that long ago either.
It certainly wasn't. I think you're looking around 2010, maybe. Very, very recent discovery.
I wonder what the latest findings published on Tuesday, Journal of Nature Communications, following the 2016 discovery of tiny arm bone and teeth. There's something that these people are considering. I don't know why. You see, is there any article that says they consider they're still alive today? That's what this one is. But that one, no.
It's like a small version of Bigfoot.
Yeah, this it. Okay. Someone sent this to me.
Yeah.
So why do they think that might still roam? Well, this is just because of anecdotal stories, right? Because there have been multiple stories that people that live in the deep rainforest have said that they've encountered these.
Why not?
Little hairy creatures.
Why not? Why should it be impossible? It has a parallel with the Bigfoot story, of course, a different size of creature, but maybe creatures have survived, which we think are extinct.
Especially small populations of them that are very remote and very difficult to get. There are reports of sighting by more than 30 eyewitnesses, all of whom I spoke with directly, and I conclude the best way to explain what they told me is a non-sapiens hominin has survived on Flores to the present or very recent times.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I would love to hear their stories.
Oh, imagine maybe AI could decipher their language. Imagine they found them. You know how nutty it would be if they found a little 3-foot-tall, hairy human being that's still alive? Oh, my goodness.
Just for clarity, he made this claim and put out a book, so it might be like, come read my book, you know.
Well, it's a good thing to do if you have a good theory.
Yeah. I mean,
write a
for
book.
sure if you got it.
I know what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying,
yeah.
I hope it's true, of course. Of course. Because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to hope it's true. All of it's fun.
That's what I'm so grateful to the universe for, and so grateful to my readers for, is that I have been given this opportunity to live a fun life.
Oh, yeah.
And to travel the world and to investigate mysteries and to put across my point of view on those mysteries. I couldn't do any of that if it wasn't for my readers. I've never had sponsorship. I've never sought anybody to fund me to do anything. I started out massively in debt. I've got to the place now where I can travel whenever I want and explore places, and that's all down to my readers. It's not just me, it's me and my readers that are making this possible, and I'm enormously grateful to them. And these days my viewers as well.
You're a very lucky man. I was going to say that
blessed.
earlier when you were talking about how you've never taken a vacation. Like, oh, you haven't, but your whole life's a vacation.
Exactly. That's why I don't see... I'm 74 years old now. I don't see myself retiring. The idea of retirement is just out of the question.
You try to retire, I'll go find you. I'm going to go grab you, drag you out.
I love
Give you some vitamins.
I love doing what I do.
Yeah.
And I hope it's contributed something useful to the world rather than just flim-flam.
No, it most certainly has. It most certainly has. I first found out about you because of Fingerprints of the Gods, and one of the things that I found most fascinating when I started going into your work was the idea that the Ark of the Covenant exists in Ethiopia.
That's what brought me into this field. Before that, I wrote all about current affairs.
That story is so nuts, and it sounds so ridiculous, and people, you go, what? The Ark of the Covenant's real? But then when you go into the history of these people that live there, and they all suffered radiation poisoning, And it's like, wait a minute.
Cataracts over their eyes.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that there's an indigenous population of Old Testament Jews in Ethiopia, the Falashas, who have their own story about how the Ark of the Covenant got there.
Right.
Different from the Ethiopian national epic, which is called the Kebra Nagast, the glory of kings. That's why I got into this field. I was a current affairs guy, and Ethiopia was on my beat, and I just kept on coming across this story, and I realized it was central to Ethiopian culture, and I decided to investigate it and explore it, and it led to The Sign and the Seal, which was published in 1992, and that's what set me on the path to Fingerprints of the Gods and everything that followed that.
So who is getting the cataracts?
The guardian of the Ark. This is a monk who is appointed. The place is Aksum in the province of Tigray in northern Ethiopia. It's a massively interesting place. Aksum has these huge granite stelae. They're very similar in many ways to ancient Egyptian obelisks. They're a bit different in shape, but same sort of height, some of them going 110 feet high, cut out of solid granite, right up there in the highlands of Ethiopia. And then they have an ancient church, the Church of St. Mary, a cathedral actually of St. Mary of Zion, where the Ark apparently was kept for hundreds and hundreds of years. Before that it was kept elsewhere, and then now it's been moved into a chapel that stands next to St. Mary of Zion Cathedral. And that chapel is guarded by armed men. The whole town is an armed camp that is protecting what they believe to be the Ark of the Covenant, but it's guarded particularly by one guy who is the official guardian of the Ark, and he's elected by other monks to be the guardian of the Ark, and several of them have run away when they get that election, because once you're elected as the guardian of the Ark, when the previous one has died, you're going to be kept in that chapel forever. You'll never be allowed to leave it. So they're close to whatever this object is. They're close to it. And I met 3 of them over a succession of years, because their mortality is once they're appointed, they die very soon. And they all had these cataracts over their eyes, and they all blamed the object in that chapel, whether or not it's the Ark, for causing their blindness.
Wow.
So it's
and no one is going in there and trying to get to the bottom of it. They won't let you.
They won't let you. They won't let you.
Can we bribe them?
No.
It seems like someone should go look.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
What's in there? I mean, if we really find out the Ark of the Covenant was an actual object.
I think it was an actual object.
And you think it was some nuclear something or another? Like,
I don't know what it was. I think it's what is rightly described as an out-of-place artifact. Because if you look at the description in the book of Exodus, the very precise dimensions of it, I think in modern terms we'd say 3 feet 9 inches long by 2 feet 3 inches high and wide. It's got a layer of gold, it's got a layer of wood, it's got another layer of gold. It's very precisely specified, like a blueprint in the book of Exodus. And then it does all this stuff. It shoots out jets of fire and kills completely innocent people. It kills 50,000 Philistines in the city of Ashdod when they briefly capture it from the Israelites and make the mistake of treating it like a tourist object, and they open the Ark of the Covenant and look inside, and suddenly everybody in that city is dying, and what they're dying of is cancerous tumors. This is described in the Old Testament. So it's intriguing that this object is so precisely specified and is reported to have done these terrible things.
It's just insane that we know where it is.
Well, we know that I believe Ethiopia has a very strong claim to it, but that's all I can say, because I've not seen it myself. I've been right outside the door of that sanctuary chapel several times. But
did you bring a Geiger counter?
No. That would be a good thought.
Yeah. Imagine it was going nuts as you got close.
That would be a good thought.
I mean, it's not like it's going to be, if it's radioactive, it's not like it's going to be contained just this one small area. You're going to have traces of it that leak out.
That's true. It would be a good way
especially if people are getting cataracts from being in the room with it.
Yeah.
And so 3 different people you talk to have cataracts from that.
Yeah, and they all blame the Ark. And one of them, it's a resonant phrase, which sticks in my memory. I asked him why, and he said the Ark is a thing of fire. Just that.
Did he describe it to you?
He did describe it as a box, rather like the biblical description, unsurprisingly. But
did he describe what it looked like the outside of it?
Gold.
Mm-hmm.
Gold.
Wow.
And of course, gold is a very good insulator. against radiation. I don't want to go too far down this track. To
me,
the fascinating thing is that Ethiopia is the only country in the world that actually claims to have the Ark of the Covenant. That it's central to religion and culture in Ethiopia today. That there's much to support that argument, particularly in the form of the Falashas, the Ethiopian Jews, and their very ancient traditions about how they got to Ethiopia in the first place. In context of all of that, I think Ethiopia has a very good claim, very interesting claim, and that's why I wrote a book about it.
That one to me is just like, we know where it is.
Yeah.
That one to me is so crazy that someone is keeping that information from the rest of the humans.
Yeah.
Because if we found out the Ark of the Covenant was in fact a real object and we know where it is and it does match the description in the Bible, that kind of changes everything. Now all of a sudden the Bible is not just stories and myths. The Bible is some sort of a historical record.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget that one of the world's best known flood myths also comes from the Bible, which is the flood of Noah.
Right.
Which again is part of this worldwide tradition of which I am absolutely convinced Atlantis should be understood as a part of that worldwide tradition of a global flood and the loss of a former civilization. And again, it's one of the reasons why I've done the work I've done over these years.
So when you're doing season 2, what did you learn from doing season 1 that you applied to season 2? Was there anything different about the way you went about it?
Definitely. I have learned from the criticisms of archaeologists, and one of the first things that became very clear to me, and they're absolutely right, is we need more indigenous voices in this series. And that's what we've made sure to do. We have an amazing indigenous archaeologist from Easter Island. We spent quite a bit of time filming in Easter Island, and it's this series doesn't do country by country episodes. It's all merged together. Different bits of the story come together in each episode. But a good chunk of it is on Easter Island, and there Sonia Hoa Cardinali is an indigenous Easter Islander. Her married name is Cardinali because she married an Italian guy. And she gave us incredible material on Easter Island, and she revealed that she and her team have found what are called banana phytoliths. Now, phytoliths are a minute part of the banana plant. They've excavated them from a crater in Easter Island. And they've found that those are 3,000 years old. Now, this is interesting for two reasons. Firstly, bananas do not propagate naturally. You can't get bananas to Easter Island without human beings bringing them there. That's how they got there. And secondly, the date that she's found 3,000-year-old banana phytoliths in Easter Island blows out of the water the notion that Easter Island was only settled 1,000 years ago or less, which is the current idea of archaeology. Again and again, we've had indigenous guests on the show who have brought real important information to it. Amongst those geoglyphs in Brazil, we had a member of the Apurina people who is a caretaker for those geoglyphs, and he talked to us about what is special to him about the geoglyphs, about how this is a sacred place to his tribe, and how they still gather there today, and how they understand that it's somehow connected to the journey to the next world, to the journey of life after death. And that then rings a bell in my mind of that whole idea of a journey to the afterlife and a portal through which we pass into that other realm. We find that right there in Brazil.
So if the Easter Island, if the island was settled at least 3,000 years ago, do we know where from?
Well, 3,000 years ago, you're still within the period of the Polynesian expansion. This is not the Ice Age. This is more recent.
Right.
It's early in the Polynesian expansion rather than late. The Easter Island was seen as one of the last places that the Polynesians got to. This new evidence is suggesting it may have been one of the first places that the Polynesians got to. But the question that arises is, did they find the Moai already in place when they came there, even 3,000 years ago? And I think there's a lot of evidence for that. I think that this is going to make archaeologists absolutely furious with me. But I hope that I'm paying full respect to indigenous traditions. We had an amazing Easter Island elder who told us the tradition of the lost land of Hiva. Easter Island has its own flood myth. They say that there was a huge land in the Pacific, far, far away, called Hiva, and that it was Hiva, and that it was destroyed in a flood cataclysm, and that there were survivors, specifically 7 wise men. That's another thing that is found all around the world. It's found in ancient Sumer, it's found in ancient Egypt, it's found almost everywhere. Specific seven wise men who came and settled Easter Island after this great cataclysm. So it's great to have indigenous testimony on that. And then you have the mystery of the Easter Island script. How did that happen? How come this tiny island, which only ever had a population of a few thousand, did something that is normally only done by big civilizations, which was create a written script? But they have a script, the Easter Island script, and it's written on wooden boards. And we learned that these were the boards we see today, none of which, by the way, are in Easter Island now. They're all in museums around the world. They themselves were copies of earlier wooden boards that wore out. And these things go back far into the remote past as far as the indigenous people of Easter Island are concerned. To have a fully formed, elaborate script, which nobody can interpret today, you have to remember the tragic history of Easter Island. There was a point where Easter Island's population was reduced to just 11 people. And it was reduced to 11 people by Peruvian slave raids. They came and slaved the people of Easter Island, and they took them to work in Peru and put them elsewhere in the Pacific. Eventually there was a movement to restore them to their homeland, and gradually people came back. But at one point its population was reduced to 11. All the elders were wiped out, those who were the memory carriers. And so what's left now is just a hint of a memory of these things. But they speak with awe of these tablets with the script on it. And to me, that is a sign again that there's something wrong with our understanding of Easter Island. How can we explain that this tiny little place produces its own written language? Why would it even need a written language when you can walk across the island in 3 hours? It wouldn't need to communicate in that way, and yet it had its own script.
And the script, can we see what it looks like? You find the Easter Island script, Jamie?
If you look up the word Rongo Rongo, Rongo, Rongo Rongo tablets.
One of the things that's interesting about AI is that they believe that AI is going to be able to determine, or decipher rather, a bunch of different things that we currently can't.
There they are.
Oh, wow.
That's
crazy.
It bears some curious similarities to the Indus Valley script, which has also not been deciphered. And let's hope AI can decipher both of them.
Look at that. That's
and
strange.
the way it runs is you read from left to right along the top row, then you go from right to left along the next row, then you go from left to right along the next row, and so on and so forth, a sort of snake-like
How do they know that?
Because that's one of the memories that's been preserved by the Easter Islanders, and because of the way they all run on.
And what do they think it represents?
According to Leo, the elder who we talked to in Easter Island, it contains memories of the past. It contains memories of the past in Easter Island, instructions on how to navigate, information about the stars, and information about how to live as a community.
Wow. But in a language that we don't know. We don't know what it sounded
nobody
like.
knows it. All we have is an oral tradition, which itself is very fragmented and very faint because of that reduction of Easter Island's population to just 11 people, and the fact that the elders who were within historical times able to read these tablets were all wiped out.
How did they decipher cuneiform?
Cuneiform, I think, because of its relationship to later languages, which were known. That's cuneiform is a writing system. You find the earliest version, I think, amongst the Sumerians, and then in later Babylonian society as well. But when you have a language, and you have a language that it's related to that you can read, or where you have a text in 2 different languages but it's the same text, then you're in a place where you can begin to translate it. That's what the Rosetta Stone does in ancient Egypt, because we have it in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, but we also have it in Greek. And that's why suddenly the code of the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs was cracked, because of the Rosetta Stone. Well, there isn't a Rosetta Stone for the Easter Island script or for the Indus Valley script. But I think in the case of the cuneiform, there was something similar, some context to place it in.
So the Easter Island, these enormous statues, one of the things they found, and I don't know when they started doing this, they dug deeper and deeper and deeper and found out that the heads that are above the surface are just a tiny part of it. So do you think that it's just natural erosion that covered up everything else?
No.
You think it was purposely?
I think it's a very complicated issue. The issue of erosion, it's not so much erosion, it's the deposition of sediment. It's the deposition of sediment
over time.
Over time. And what we're looking at with these Easter Island heads, I was fortunate to know, there we are, and I was just going to say, I was fortunate to know Thor Heyerdahl, and there he is in the blue safari suit standing at the shoulder of the Easter Island Moai. And you can see that the dark bit is the bit that was above ground. Mm-hmm. And then they dig down and they find that it goes down 30 feet underground, this enormous thing. And this is not as a result of being exposed by erosion. This had to be excavated in order to reveal it.
Right.
And the issue is, on this tiny island, how much, if this thing is only 700 years old, which is something that archaeologists often say, 700 or 1,000 years old, if it's only that old, how do you get 30 feet of sedimentation on this tiny island in just 700 years? It looks like a much longer period that would be required to create that depth of sedimentation.
Put that image back up again, please. So how much time do you think, I mean, has there been speculation? Like if it just natural layers of sediment being dropped down, how long would it take to cover something like that? Well,
this is where I'd like to defer to the work of Dr. Robert Schoch, who's a brilliant expert in this field. We invited Robert Schoch to join us in season 2 of Ancient Apocalypse, but he declined. I think that's unfortunate because I think Robert Schoch has done breakthrough work on Easter Island, and it's Robert Schoch who first realized that this is a problem. This deep burial of these statues by natural sedimentation is a problem. It's a chronological problem that speaks to these statues being much older than we imagine they are.
Well, is Robert Schoch declining because of the criticism that he received about the Temple of the Sphinx?
I'm not sure why.
He probably doesn't want to deal with it anymore.
I've always regarded Robert as a good friend, but he and I have not spoken since 2015.
On purpose?
Well, I would love to speak to Robert.
Is he trying not to talk to you?
And I take every opportunity to express my admiration for him. And Robert has been very brave. He is a credentialed geologist, and he has stuck his neck out on the Sphinx. And a lot of people want to cut his head off for doing that. And I appreciate his courage, and I appreciate his openness of mind and his willingness to get into this. But I don't know, somewhere between 2013, we were still good friends. We traveled to Gunung Padang together in 2013.
What year did he do the podcast, Jamie? He did our podcast back in the day.
Yeah.
I want to say it was around 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
6 years ago? Okay. So 2018. Maybe that's why I stopped being your friend.
No, I don't know why it is. Maybe I did something that offended him. Sometimes I can be very unpleasant and can be very angry.
You're a nice guy.
Well,
Get out of here.
we're all nice guys, but we all have a dark side. And sometimes I am very harsh and very unpleasant. I don't think I was with Robert. I don't understand what the problem is between us. He and I disagree over the cause of the Younger Dryas cataclysm. Robert Schoch believes that it was a massive solar outburst that brought this catastrophe about, and he focuses on the end of the Younger Dryas, 11,600 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm more of the view that the Comet Research Group is right, and that we're looking at the effect of largely of airbursts of large cometary fragments right across the surface of the Earth, which caused the Younger Dryas.
Why are they mutually exclusive?
But I don't see why. No, I don't see why they're mutually exclusive. I don't see why one has to write off the other. What we both agree on is that the Younger Dryas between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago was an extraordinary global cataclysm, which changed everything, which extinguished all the megafauna of the Ice Age. We agree on that, and we agree that it likely wiped out a lost civilization of the Ice Age as well. We disagree on the mechanism, but I don't see why we shouldn't be friends for that. So, Robert, if you're listening, please let's work together, because we have many common enemies, and this is one of the problems with the alternative side is that there's a lot of infighting in the alternative side, and everybody's scrambling for their own bit of turf. Whereas the archaeological side, they're very unified in terms of attacking what they call pseudo-archaeology. They work as a team, and that teamwork makes them very efficient. We're very inefficient on the alternative side.
Well, I'm assuming, if I shouldn't be assuming, but I'm assuming it's the criticism. He probably wants to keep his job, and he said everything he wants to say. And
I'm not sure. I think Robert is open to doing television. The fact is, we invited him to come to Israel and to give his point of view, and he declined, and therefore he must have a strong reason to do that.
Well, I hope he still loves you, but
I hope so too.
Has anybody speculated about how much time it would take to cover those Easter Island statues with sediment?
Thousands of years.
Thousands.
In Shock's view, yeah.
Thousands
of years. Yeah.
30 feet of dirt.
Mm-hmm. Remember, it's a small island.
Right.
It's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
It's 2,000 miles from Tahiti and 2,000 miles from the coast of Peru.
It just seems strange that there's so many of those statues in this one area, too. Like, what did that island signify? Like, why did they do that?
Well, it's what it calls itself, Te Pitu o Te Henua, the navel of the earth.
Ooh.
It calls itself the navel of the earth, and it's not the only place. Delphi in Greece calls itself the navel of the earth. Heliopolis in Egypt, close to Giza, was a navel of the earth. Angkor Wat in Cambodia is a navel of the earth. Göbekli Tepe means the navel, the hill of the navel. This notion of navels of the earth, I think it's connected to an ancient geodetic survey of the earth, that there were certain anchor points that lines of longitude were drawn from by a civilization that didn't have our tech, didn't have our iPhones, but did explore the world, did sail the oceans. And I'm not surprised that we haven't found their ships, since we haven't found the ships from those who sailed to Australia or for those who sailed to Cyprus either. But it had abilities that we do not attribute to period of that time, and those abilities included the ability to calculate longitude, something that our civilization didn't crack until the 18th century. I suggest it's only a theory that these multiple navels of the earth around the world were fixed points on the earth where longitude connections were made. They were established places. So I do not think it's an accident that Angkor Wat is 72 degrees of longitude east of Giza, because that number 72 occurs in ancient myths all around the world and is strongly connected to this phenomenon called precession of the equinoxes, which first of all, it changes the pole star. At the moment, the Earth wobbles on its axis, but it's a very slow wobble over 26,000 years. It changes the pole star. Now it's Polaris. In the past, it was Thuban. In the past, it was Draco. But now it's Polaris, because the extended north pole of the Earth is spiraling in the heavens, and it's pointing at different bits of space over a roughly 26,000 year period, 25,920 years to be exact. 1 degree of precession takes 72 years to unfold. That's why the fact that the relationship of the Great Pyramid to the Earth being on the scale of 1 to 43,200 is interesting. If it was on the scale of 1 to 57,000, I couldn't care less. But 43,200 is one of those numbers that we find in mythology and traditions all around the world. There's very solid scholarly backing for this in a book I've mentioned to you before, which is called Hamlet's Mill by Giorgio de Santillana and Hertha von Deschen. Giorgio was professor of history of science at MIT. They draw attention to this, that there appears to have been a very ancient knowledge of this obscure astronomical phenomenon, which our culture attributes to the Greeks and thinks only goes back a couple of thousand years. Santillana and von Deschen were of the view that it goes back to what they called some almost unbelievable ancestor civilization of the remote past.
How could they even know that that was happening? Like, by what method could they make those calculations that the Earth wobbles on its axis every 26,000 years? Like, you
have to observe for more than one human lifetime. You've got to keep observing.
And then extrapolate the wobble?
Well, you may have to observe for hundreds of years in order to conclude that it's a wobble is another thing. But to conclude that the skies are changing at a regular fixed rate, that's going to take observation over a few hundred years. 72 years is one human lifetime. In that 72 years, the precessional shift would be the equivalent of the width of your finger held up to the horizon. Very hard to note. But if you extend it for several hundred years, it'll be very clear that something is going on. And what's going on is the constellation that rises behind the sun, particularly notable at key moments of the year: the summer and winter solstice and the spring and autumn equinox. And the age in which we live, as anybody, of course, astrology is another one of those things that archaeologists despise.
Yeah.
But as anybody who follows astrology will know, we live in the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And that's because the sun on the spring equinox is, within the next 150 years, is going to move entirely out of Pisces, where it sits at the moment, and is going to move into Aquarius. The age of Pisces, with Pisces housing the sun on the spring equinox, began around the time of Christ, about just over 2,000 years ago. And before that, it was the age of Aries. We have all this ram symbolism in ancient Egypt at that time. Before that, it was the age of Taurus, constellation of Taurus housing the sun. All of this is a process that unfolds at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years. So when I find that the Great Pyramid models the Earth on a scale of 1 to 43,200, which is 72 times 600, I wake up and I think this is interesting. And when I find that Angkor, one navel of the Earth, is separated from Giza, another navel of the Earth, by 72 degrees of longitude, that rings another bell. And I think that's something curious and worthy of exploration.
I think we also, when we talk about ancient people studying the sky, we think of the sky today. And our sky, unfortunately, is burdened by light pollution almost everywhere. Anywhere there's civilization, it's very difficult to see the stars.
Very difficult.
Whereas they had none of that, and they were in constant awe of this thing that they could see every night. And they probably had a very detailed understanding of where everything was, you know, in a way that you're...
Far more detailed than most people have today.
Right, because we don't have access to it unless you're in like deep wilderness. And with a clear night sky,
the presence of the sky in our lives, if we're living in a city, is close to zero.
Yeah.
It's not zero, but it's close to zero.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre detachment that is propagated by technology.
Oh, yeah. Very, very much so.
Very weird, right? Because it's actually dangerous for us.
Yeah.
Because I think it makes us disconnected from the idea that we're connected totally to the universe, and that feeling of awe that you get when you see a completely star-filled night. I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. I was in the observatory in the Big Island in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And when you go up to the Keck Observatory, the sky, you go through the clouds. And when you get up to the top and you look, you can't believe that you could see it. Mm-hmm. You can't believe... I've been there 3-4 times. Only once did we really catch it. The last time was pretty good, but one time we caught it perfectly, where there was no moon in the sky and the sky was completely clear, and it was astounding.
Astounding, yeah.
You feel like it's a windshield and you are on a spaceship and you're flying through deep space. You see stars everywhere.
That's a beautiful way to put it. That's exactly what we are.
We're in a convertible. Yeah. We're in a convertible spaceship flying through the universe. That's really what it is. And you don't see it every day because of light pollution. And I think it's one of the saddest things about our culture. It's incredible that you can go out at night and you can see and, you know, drive and go to your favorite restaurant and go to the movies and all kinds of nice stuff. But what we're trading off is literally our connection to this insanely beautiful thing that hypnotizes you with its awe. It just... You look at this, if you get to go camping on a night where you see everything, it's incredible. It's one of the greatest things you could ever see. Yeah. And it used to be there for everybody, and it used to be how they lived their life.
It was an ever-present reality. Yeah. It was impossible to avoid it. And that is why it's so crazy to say that the phenomenon like precession wasn't discovered until the Greeks about 2,200 years ago, because the ancients were living with those skies for thousands and thousands of years before, and they were paying very close attention to them. There's strong evidence that the constellations of the zodiac were not inventions of the Greeks either. I mean, in a sense, the constellations aren't inventions because they happen to be on the path of the sun. The zodiac are the constellations which roughly are in the place in the sky that the sun occupies through the course of the year. That's why we see them. But there's increasing evidence that the Greeks inherited that, and that the knowledge was very early, and it may well go back into the Upper Paleolithic. There's this incredible figure of Taurus in the Hall of Bulls at Lascaux Cave in France, one of those cave paintings, which shows the stars of the Pleiades above the shoulder of the bull, exactly where they should be.
What is the oldest version of astrology that we have?
Well, again, you have the official position on this, and you have the unofficial.
What's the official position?
Well, the official position is that it's something that developed during the time of the late Mesopotamians and the Greeks. This notion that somehow there was a connection between the sky, events in the sky and what happens to us. But I think it's much older than that. I think the idea that the sky in some way determines our destinies is a very ancient idea, not a recent idea, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's weird to think this. I don't mean to be selfish to the human race, but we would not be here. No human beings would be here if it were not for that whole vast universe out there. It would be wrong to say that the universe exists so that we can be.
Right.
But the fact is, we would not be. We're part of that huge cosmos. And you're right. It's forgetting that we're part of the cosmos, or regarding the cosmos as something that we must conquer, which is the modern mindset, which is most unhelpful.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by astrology, not like the newspaper astrology, like you're a Cancer, so that means this. But the idea that the time you were born, the place on Earth you were born, where you were conceived, all these play a factor in your personality, and that this was somehow or another mapped out by people thousands and thousands of years ago. I know a lot of people like to dismiss it as myth, and I've been one of those people, but part of me wonders if there is some sort of an impact that, look, we know that the gravity from the moon affects the tides. We know that we're mostly water. We know that there's some sort of an effect that planets and gravity and stars must have on the entirety of the universe. Yeah. And the idea that these very bizarre biological entities, that their personalities and their existence is in some way motivated, shaped, or at least influenced by the position in the stars in which they were born, is very interesting. Because people studied that shit for a long time. If there was nothing to it, why have so many generations of people studied it?
I think it's a good question.
And what was the root of it? Like, how the hell did they figure that out?
Well, it must come from a place where we feel connected to the universe.
Yeah.
And we feel that the universe influences us directly.
Right.
Not the way we look at it at the moment as sort of something out there that doesn't mean much to us, except that we're going to conquer it with spaceships.
Right.
And go to the moon and go to planets and things like that. But to see it as an ever-present reality, we understand that we're affected by the climate on planet Earth. We understand we're affected by the weather, by the oceans, by the winds. They affect us. They affect our personalities. So why shouldn't we be affected by the broader universe that surrounds us?
Yeah, it does make sense, but I've never heard anybody explain it. No, have you ever talked to like a legitimate, air quotes, astrologer?
No, I haven't. It's not been a central focus for me. My central focus has more been on the evidence for really precise ancient astronomy, particularly amongst the ancient Egyptians, but also fantastically advanced amongst the Maya in Mexico as well. And we have a big focus on the Maya in season 2 of Ancient Apocalypse, and I was fortunate, blessed, to have a brilliant archaeologist, Ed Barnhart, who joined me there in Palenque. And he's not sneering at me. He doesn't agree with everything I say. He's very clear on that. But he's not sneering at me, and he feels that there's something useful being contributed by this approach.
And so is it generally agreed that there is a connection between the methods or the design of the construction and the correlation between star systems?
I don't follow the question quite.
Is it agreed by archaeologists that the reason why these things are constructed in a very specific direction and in a very specific design, that it is mirroring the cosmos?
I think that archaeologists are very reluctant to accept the broader idea. They are willing, they can hardly deny, that some structures are specifically aligned to the equinoctial rising point of the sun, in other words, due east. And other structures are aligned to the rising or the setting of the sun on the summer or the winter solstice. That cannot be denied. Serpent Mound in Ohio is a classic example of that, which is oriented precisely to the setting sun on the winter solstice. But the broader idea that, for example, positions of stars in the sky might be replicated on the ground, that's an idea that archaeology completely rejects. And that's where I would like to pay tribute to my dear friend Robert Boval, who's been very ill for the last many years, but Robert Boval brought us the Orion correlation, and my God, did archaeology descend upon him like a ton of bricks for just noticing that the three great pyramids of Giza are laid out on the ground in the pattern of the three stars of Orion's belt. And then when we work precession into the equation, we find that they're not laid out in the pattern of Orion's belt as it looked in 2500 BC when the pyramids are supposed to have been built. They're laid out in the pattern of Orion's belt in 10,500 BC, 12,500 years ago.
I was very lost and very alone, and I was like on like day 6 or something of being lost. I don't remember. No, it wasn't that long of a solo. But I was lost and I was scared. And I was in a hammock.
How did you get lost?
Well, as soon as you leave the river, like you could literally walk 15 feet and then be like, I'm just going to come right back. And the jungle will like Blair Witch you. Because it's all green. So you just like think you know what you're doing. Just last week, I wanted to cross from one trail to another trail. And I was like, I'm a guide, I can do this. And I came back out on the same trail like a half hour later. And I was like, yep, that's what I meant to do. Let's go. And like, it happens to JJ all the time.
Really?
You cannot find your way in the
jungle. Do you
jungle.
use a compass?
Don't use a compass.
Why not?
Because actually, apparently some of the iron content and some of the saps in the trees pulls the needle. It doesn't work really well.
Even the trees are trying to trick you. Oh my God.
GPSs run out of batteries. You know, it's like you really just, you have to learn your bushcraft. You have to learn how to navigate in the jungle. And it's like, which is pretty much, you have to get just amazing at dead reckoning and remembering your course, because it's so dense that like we play with people. We go, go see if you can go from here to there. It's like they can't go there. They can't do that as soon as you leave the river. So like I had gone out on this solo, gotten lost, gotten scared, and then been like, oh shit, what if I just like into the wilded myself? What if now I'm gonna be the next kid that went and died in the Amazon? And like I like slept in the hammock, but this is like as I was learning, so I didn't realize that the hammock that I had bought had a mosquito net on top, but the back was not mosquito proof, so they could stick through. So my back was being destroyed by mosquitoes as I'm trying to sleep. And like a couple of nights of that. And so I finally fall asleep and I wake up in the middle of the night and I hear breathing right next to my face. And I like wanted to turn my headlamp on and I just hear like right here. Like I could feel her breath. And I was like 6 inches away from a jaguar's face. And she just like, and then left. And she just came in. She wanted to see what that was. She was like, you're not going to move. That's what you're not going to do. She growled like right into my ear. And then later on. But that one's cute though. That's a cute picture. That's a cute jag.
Wow. And they vary in colors and the spots and everything, right? Like some of them are much darker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, actually somebody recently was like, where do you see panthers? And I went on this whole thing of like, a leopard or a jaguar, just like you can have albinos, you have a melanistic one. Yeah.
Wow.
And so like people would call that a panther, but a panther's not a real, there's no animal that's a panther. It's like a Kleenex. It's like it's just another name for it.
That is so beautiful.
But a black
Look
jag.
at that thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
Yeah, in South India they have the black leopards.
What an amazing looking animal.
Look at the muscles.
Yeah, it's an amazing killing machine. And so humans don't get taken out by them?
I can only really speak for our region of the Amazon, but I haven't even heard a story about it.
Really?
Like no one. Our jags are just, we have like record numbers of jags. Like I think they're listed as near threatened, and we have like some of the strongest remaining jaguar populations in the world. It's incredible.
And you barely see them.
We barely see them. The last one I saw was 2 years ago. And some people like go their whole lives without seeing them.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because people walk off into the jungle and they don't realize. People, it's so funny living in the wild and seeing people show up there. And it's like people come and they're like, they smell like shampoo and cologne and bug spray and deodorant. And they're just like, if to an animal that has such better senses than we do, they might as well just have like sirens on them. And like you are this shiny, glittering foghorn of attention in the jungle, and like every animal is going to run away from you. And so people are always like, how come you go out and you see so much stuff? And it's like, I only shower in the river. I live out in the jungle. I smell like they do. Like I'm out there for weeks, and it's like I'm not going and like shampooing my hair. It's like And so like to these animals, like they know when you're coming. Like a jag's just going to be like, oh, there's a human there.
Do you wash with soap when you wash in the river?
I do use a biodegradable soap. You have to keep your skin clean or else you just get infections. But like for the most part, like my clothing, everything, like I don't use anything that's scented because of that, because I want to be out there and just blend in. And that's whether I'm out in the field with elephants or whether you're out in, in Africa or India or whether you're in the Amazon. I want to be sort of like included. I want to blend in. And so like not that long ago, I was checking a camera trap and I thought it was we had students at our research station at the time, and I heard like the leaves going like and it was like September, so the jungle was dry. And I turned around and I was going to scare this person because I was going to be like, who walks that loud in the jungle? Like, you have no respect. And I turned around with my finger up and this jag walked right by me on the trail and just went, what's up? I just kept walking and I was like, finger up. And I was like, okay.
Oh, Lord.
But I took that as good because at least I was my like scent trail was so that he didn't know I was there. I could see it on his face. He didn't care. He was like, hey. But I mean, he was 6 feet away. He didn't even break his stride. He just walked by me and was like, yo, what's up?
They don't think of you as food, so they just keep moving.
No, and I think they're, with big cats, they're the mothers teach the young how to hunt, and I think they're so oriented, like with tigers, they're so oriented on horizontal. Get the neck from underneath, break the neck from up top. And it's like when they see a vertical animal walking by, I think they're like, first of all, I don't know what this is. Second of all, it smells weird. Third of all, where do I even, you got to be desperate to take that risk. I don't think that lions are a different story, but with jags, with tigers, with leopards, I've never, ever felt any fear being around a jaguar, like any fear. I don't even take pictures of them. I just enjoy it.
Wow.
I let other people take pictures. If I'm with people, I'll let them take pictures, but I will not lift my camera for a jag. I'll just stand there and just
take it in.
Yeah. You get to see them so rarely. I don't want to sit there finally seeing one and then put another screen in front of my face.
Right.
Look through it through some glass. Like,
whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's our camera.
They've started that's from yours?
Yeah.
Wow, look at that thing.
Yeah.
That is so majestic. What an amazing animal. Those glowing eyes.
Well, that's the crazy thing. You shine your headlamp into the night, and then when things look back at you, you got to wonder what it is. It's like,
well, when there's two eyes in the front,
there's two eyes in the front, yeah. But sometimes the deer, but then the jags do this thing where they move their head like this. They try and see around your headlamp. They'll like do this little side to side thing. Like the deer, they'll just blink at you. They'll just blink, and so you start learning the eye shines. You start learning the. Because then you can be out there at night and you look at something and people are like, oh shit, dude, it's a jag. And it's like, no, it's a deer.
When you were saying that the uncontacted tribe were speaking in monkey calls, what are they doing?
So JJ's dad used to tell us, he said, if you're ever out in the forest and something doesn't sound right, he was like, get out of there. And he was like, because they will use the tinamou calls, like the undulated tinamou is like, but like, we know what that sounds like, but we also know what it doesn't sound like. And so like every now and then you'll hear one that's, different. And like we all get freaked out because we're like, that's how we do it. That's how JJ taught me to do it. Like if there was a bunch of tourists right there and JJ wanted me to come over and like chill with him and we wanted to go hang, he would just do that. He'd get my attention. And like, I know that it's not a tinamou. I know it's JJ. And so it's like, they've taken that to a whole nother level where they can communicate. And so there was a group of guys who was upriver and they got surrounded. They heard monkey calls coming from different directions, and they realized that they were completely surrounded. And like at least one of the guys who was telling it to me, he got in the water and like crawled like a turtle and like escaped. And then the tribe showed up, and then there was this whole showdown where they actually shot one of the community members, and then one of the guys who knows some of their language was saying that it looked like they were mad with the guy that shot the guy. They were mad with him. Like they were like, why did you do that? Now there's going to be retaliation. Like, why did you shoot him? And like there was like a whole discussion happening while these people were like huddled in the stream waiting to see if they got killed too. So it's like, I don't really, so when you get these loggers going in there, it's like, yo, we'll pay you to protect the rainforest. And like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to be going into these areas that are that dangerous. So at this point now, though, through all of this, though, we've established jungle keepers. We have 50,000 acres. We're trying to do 300,000 acres. And if we can do that, will basically be helping to establish one of the largest protected areas in the Amazon rainforest, which will encompass these uncontacted people, and they can stay uncontacted and they can stay safe and do whatever they want to do in the jungle, guarding the secret pyramids and the giant ground sloths or whatever the hell it is that they do. But we're close.
Now, how many uncontacted tribes are they aware of?
I think there's like over 100 different groups across the Amazon. There's also varying degrees of, and the other thing is the conversation so often gets turned to like they're, violent, and that they're people that live out in the jungle. And I have no idea how they do it either, because, at night we need headlamps. We don't have night vision. All the animals have night vision. So it's like, what do they do that night? They're able to make fire in the jungle at night every day. If I gave you an entire book of matches, me and you, we sat down right now in the jungle. I was like, okay, cool. You got a machete and a book of matches. First one to make fire wins. We couldn't do it. It's wet. Everything is wet. So how are they? Are they doing bow drill? What are they doing? So
we don't know.
We don't really know. No. We don't know how they do that. We don't know how they stay infection free. We don't know what they do with their old people. We never see old people. We never really see children. And so like they move around, and we see like groups of men on beaches. We see like that aerial picture where you see like a family group out. That's in turtle season, where you have turtles laying their eggs on the beaches, and the tribes will come out because that's easy food. You just pick up turtle eggs and eat them. But there's so much that we don't know about their lifestyle. And like people get so many things wrong. Just, if you leave them alone, then they won't kill you. If you, then people go, oh, they're Stone Age tribes. And it's like, well, they're not Stone Age tribes because they're alive right now. And you couldn't live out in the jungle, but they can.
Right.
So it's like there's elements of their botanical knowledge, their medicinal knowledge, their creation myths, their view of history. I mean, they're coming at reality from a whole different perspective than we are.
Wow. And there's really no way to get... Does anyone speak their language? Do we know what language they all speak? Is it universal? Do they have different languages?
It's not universal, and there was someone in our region who, captured a child from the uncontacted, raised him in a very remote community, and people have tried, anthropologists have tried, they've been like, hey, so what was it like when you grew up? And it's dark. He's just like, I don't remember. Like, no one's been able to get any information out of him.
How old was he when they captured him?
I think 6. Under 10, for sure.
Does he not remember? Or does he just not want to talk about it?
I don't know. There's all these underlying stories. Oh man, yeah. There's just. Then last year, some loggers went to a place they shouldn't have gone, and they got whacked. And sort of like the WhatsApp underground in Peru, like everyone was sending each other pictures because one of the cops sent to his family a picture of what the bodies looked like on day 6, laying on the beach with arrows in them and shit. And it was like, oh my God. It was like this. It makes you stay in bed at night. You're just like, I am not going out.
Jesus.
But I mean, yeah, it's a complicated topic because there's people that want to contact them. There's people that want to leave them alone. And then, of course, there's missionaries that are like, they need the Bible.
What did you think about Lost City of Z?
I loved the book. I wanted more from the movie.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's only so much time and
yeah.
Hollywood fuckery.
Oh, God. The book was fantastic. And that guy was out of his mind.
Out of his mind?
Out of his mind.
Yeah.
Percy Fawcett.
Yeah.
Percy Fawcett. But the fact that he could go on those expeditions and not get infected. Mm-hmm. I've been brutally hold on, let me show you. I'll show you this picture. I don't think there's any way of pulling this up, but
oh my God.
The jungle just gets into your skin.
Oh, what is that on your face?
MRSA infection. It started mosquito bites, and then I would scratch, and then you don't realize you're spreading it with your fingernails. And you go like this and shit. And so then, I almost died from that. But I was staying in the jungle to take care of an anteater. But it's
how did you get free of that? If you're in the jungle, did you use antibiotics?
Go home.
You just go home.
I had to go home at that point. I remember I got to JFK, and the guy, he looked down at my passport. He goes, yeah, what were you doing in Peru? And then he looked up at me and he goes, buddy, what the fuck? And I was like, I'm just trying to get it. And he stamped it. He was like, go. He's like, go to the doctor. I can't believe they let me through.
Right. You could have been infected with some crazy plague.
Could have had monkey Ebola.
Yeah.
It looked bad. And I spent days in the hospital. It was really, really bad. But for Percy Fawcett to not they would say like other people would be dying. There was somebody, I think the guy's name was Murray. He came from the Shackleton expedition. He'd already been out with Shackleton, so he was like, I'm a real explorer. And he didn't last any time with Fawcett. Because Percy Fawcett was just like, you can't keep up? Go die. You can go die with the mules. Like, he just wouldn't stop. So my question is like, did he go out and eventually get killed, or did he eventually go out and like find the tribe that made him their king and just...
There's no knowledge.
There's no knowledge of it.
Yeah, no one really knows what happened to him.
And they said in that book that over 100 people have died looking for him since he left. Because then the other expeditions that have gone out, all of those have died too.